morning, everyone, and welcome. Welcome to the regular meeting of the Third Laguna Hills Mutual Board of Directors, a California nonprofit mutual benefit corporation. Today is Tuesday, November 17th, 2020, and it's 9:30 a.m., and we are broadcasting via a virtual meeting. The purpose of this meeting is to conduct a regular Third Mutual Board meeting in accordance with Third Bylaw Section 5.4.1. So I'd like to call the meeting to order at this time, and we have a quorum. At this time, Director Dotson will lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Okay, I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. If everyone would please check out their sound devices and put them on mute, please, that would be great. And we'll acknowledge the media at a distance. I need a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Okay. Any additions, corrections, anything like that anybody would like to bring up? There's one thing that we would like to add, that I will mention it when we come to it, and we'll do it that way. Okay, if there's no objection, we'll consider this under common consensus. Any objections? Okay, moving on to approval of the minutes of October 20th, 2020, regular open meeting. I hear a motion to accept the minutes.
So moved. I'll second. Annie moves, I'll second.
Any comments, questions? Okay, if there are none, we'll consider this under common consensus. All righty. And we'll move forward to item number 6, report of the chair. I just want to reintroduce our two new board members. Deborah Dotson, you can raise your hand, please. Here she is. And Donna Raines-Shostad. Both are new board members. Welcome aboard. And I'm sure you've received a lot of information by now to get you up to speed. Now there's more coming. Anyway, glad to have you here. And as I mentioned, this is conduct a business session today for us. That's all the comments I have. We'll go to the open forum. Becky, if you want to take us there, please.
Good morning, President Parsons and esteemed members of the board. We have 4 member comments this morning. We're going to start with our first member comment, and this is from Van Winston, and he did not put a manor number. Do you want me to move forward with this?
If you could check on that, and we can come back to him as the 4th comment.
Okay.
Let's go ahead with the others. Okay.
The next one is from Arseny Kalinsky from 5236. My name is Arseny Kalinsky. I'm the new owner of the manor located at 5236 Elvira. I have a question regarding fumigation of this property because the house inspection found termite damage. I know that fumigation is not scheduled for this year because of COVID. The problem is that I am diagnosed with a progressive neurological disorder of ALS spectrum, and my mobility is very limited. I'm not planning to move in for the next 4 months since the property requires a lot of fixing. It would be much more convenient for me and less expensive for Third Mutual if the fumigation would be done this year, since I am not sure if I will be still mobile next year. It's been almost 2 months since I first asked this question by email, leaving voice messages, and by writing letter through regular mail. It is extremely frustrating to be ignored. Thank you. The next number, Lynn Carbose. It's 3505C. Comment is, only the members of the submutuals have the deeded legal interest in the common areas within their submutual. The rest of the membership does not. Why are you not including some provisions to the amendment 14 section of the proposed CCNRs that will preserve the exclusive rights of the submutual members to vote on matters affecting the common area? Why couldn't this provision provide for a simple majority of the votes submitted to approve or disapprove common area matters? Please respond to these two specific questions. Hopefully this board will not censor my questions. 1, refusing to answer the actual questions asked by the member. 2, refusing to read comments submitting for meetings, especially for the annual meeting, the agendas which from the night before had explicitly provided for member comments. 3, canceling all meetings the week before the end of the voting. We are all very appreciative of the hard work this board has been faced with, and we respect your diligence. Please provide this membership with a full disclosure of the changes inherent in these revisions and respect our rights to equal expression of relevant opinions. Last member comment, Susan Smallwood, 3033N and 3456B. Last month I attended an Echoes HOA virtual conference and emailed 2 questions during the Ask the Attorney segment, and they were answered as follows. A, our HOA has been allowing Section 4603E to transfer the burden of management and maintenance of any common area that is generally inaccessible and not of general use to the membership at large of the association when it abruptly came to a stop in 2017. Is this current code section, and can it still be used today by Board of Directors? Stephen Tinley, Esquire, answered that their association takes into consideration such requests. One might be a homeowner requesting to use and take care of landscaping surrounding their unit. Other considerations would be looked at if reasonable. B, our HOA has not addressed its dangerous situations such as electrical unit located at the back of a unit and that during a rain or broken sprinkler, you could be standing in water shocked and killed. Ms. Poole of the law firm Adam Sterling responded that the Board of Directors should address this dangerous situation with their legal counsel to remedy using Section 4603E. A concrete pad could be installed so long as a fence were not put up around blocking entrance. I'm asking that you obtain a legal opinion from Sandra Gottlieb to utilize 4603E to address the safety of our electrical panels for all single-story units. This was brought to your attention in June of 2019, and you have carried it each and every month without making a decision. It is time again to address that both our journey neighbor, Jerry Berkovitz, age 94, has a pacemaker, as well as my husband, Tim. We're constantly helping him with his panel and when the power goes out. And that is all I have. Thank you.
Did you get any more information on Van Winston?
I have not. I could find out. It'll probably take me about 2 minutes.
Oh, okay. All righty. Let's go ahead and address these. On the RC, I think it is, Walensky, wanting fumigation done ahead of time. Jeff, can you enlighten us on this, the process and so forth? He's not going to be moving in for, I think it's 3 to 4 weeks. And that'll be done before he moves in?
3 to 4 months. 3 to 4 months, Steve.
3 to 4 months, okay. Jeff, you're muted.
Got it. Sorry about that. Could you repeat the question one more time, Steve? I apologize for that.
Yes, the new owner of 5326 said that in an inspection they noticed termite damage.
On the fumigation
and he's
issue?
He's not going to be moving in for 3 to 4 months, and he has written a letter requesting fumigation be done before he moves in because he has ELS disease and he is becoming immobile. So we want to do that before these other things prevail on.
So as the person indicated, you know, we continued the fumigation process or discontinued the fumigation process, but I will go back and look specifically as to when we would be able to start up the fumigation process in 2021, whether that would be in the time frame that would be reasonable for this individual. We'll look at the specifics on that, and we'll see if we can accommodate getting that accomplished prior to this person moving in, as he indicated.
All righty. Any other comments from anyone? Okay, moving on to Lynn Carbeau, dealing with common area matters. Lynn, we have talked about this at length at our Architectural Standard Review Committee, and we are still looking for some clarification from Sacramento. We do know that there are differences of opinions, legal opinions, on what the new rules are from Sacramento. They need to be defined, and that's working its way through the process at present. So stand by for more news on that. Anybody else have any comments on Lynn's comment? Okay. Susan Smallwood. Susan, if you'll remember, I'm the one that brought it forward about possibly having these concrete pads under the electrical boxes outside. We have looked at it. It's an ongoing thing that we are carrying the next committee to continually look at. So far, it is not considered to be a threat per se. We checked with the city. They said that if something happened, city said that under the new provisions, yes, that would need to be taken care of, but the other things that have happened in the past don't warrant this being done. In other words, it's being grandfathered through. So that is still being looked at. I'm not giving up on that. It's still near and dear to me. So that is also being looked at by Sandra, and we'll let you know if anything breaks on that. Any other comments? Okay. Anything that you got back for us, Becky, on Dan?
I was unable to find the member in the system.
Okay. Thank you very much. We'll go ahead and move on then. Okay. We'll do item 9, COO report, please.
Good morning, everybody. And to President Parsons, I got your email and your request. So one of the updates that Steve had asked me to comment on was where do we stand with regards to our time frame with manor alterations and inspections as they relate to not only the manor alterations but also the real estate side with regards to that. So let me backpedal one step in saying that with regards to our malware system, all of our data has been recovered, and we are now just taking that data and making sure that we clean it up, scrub it before we put it back into our total operation. We want to make sure that there's no additional malwares or infections out there with regards to viruses. And so that is a work in progress, but we have had made some substantial step forwards with regards to getting that all that data back up, so all of our departments can get back to what I'll call the new normal under our situation. With regards to President Parsons' specific question was with regards to alterations and our inspection process. We are probably right now sitting at 5 to 6 weeks lag time with regards to our application process and issuing permits with regards to alterations. We are focusing on alterations that are critical to people living in their manors, not an alteration that is just for beautification and that style. So we kind of have taken a tack to make sure that we are addressing as quickly as possible any alterations that are impacting how people are living in their manor or need to live in their manor. So that as the more our data gets into the system, so that Robbie and Manor Alterations can go back and work with that information, that will speed up the time frame. but it really is a getting everything in place, and then secondly, getting all the requests in line so that we can get these permits. We also are still down staffing and alterations, but we're working diligently to try to get those people up on board. With regards to inspections for the processing with the applications that are coming in for purchasing or leasing within that critical group that Pamela works with. Pamela and Robbie have teamed up really, really well since our system went down to try to prioritize, especially looking at processes that were already in the escrow process so that we could continue to get those escrows closed, making sure that we're getting the inspections appropriately so that we don't have any kind of consent issues later on, and how we would address that. And that now is in a basically has whittled down into a 2 to 3 week time frame. And again, within that 2 to 3 week lag time, we're still trying to focus on certain critical ones versus ones that have a escrow period that has a longer time frame that we can address in kind of a critical nature, so in a triage kind of mode. So that's the status with regards to those two. I do want to say that with getting the system back up, just since last week, we've literally since Thursday and Friday of last week, we've taken in 1,000 service requests, and we've processed 500 appointments have been set up since just Thursday and Friday of getting our system back up. So it's nice to have that, but we know that we're going to have this backlog because people have been waiting to get into the system and to do that. But now that we have all of our data recovered, we can the key is getting it scrubbed and making sure that we can get it online without any additional malware issues, and making sure our computer systems are up to speed to handle that. And I know that all our departments are anxious and are happy that they're seeing that data coming back and that they can access it right away. So that's my update with regards to that.
One question for you, Jeff. Is there any lag time with city permits? Or what's the city's situation on alterations?
Regarding the city?
Yes.
As you know, one of the things that we did, we had a meeting with regards to manor alterations with some of our contractors and some of the board members. And so we're going to have to, again, kind of take that next step and go back and talk to the city with regards to the permitting system, because as you know, in certain manor alterations that are, electrical or code issues, they have to get a city permit as well as getting a permit from or approval from the village. One of the things that still hasn't changed is that even though we've had the dialogue, is trying to figure out a way in which we can coalesce and try to be more of a partner with the city, and seeing if we can get inspections and operations from the city perspective more in line with how we're doing it. Right now, it's kind of a back and forth. You have to go to the city first and you get a permit, then you have to come back to us, or you come to us first, so you go to city and then back to us. And unfortunately, that puts in additional time frame with regards to these permits getting processed through us and making sure that we get a completed permit process. So sometimes people submit stuff to us that's not complete relative to when they take it to the city. They need more information, or the city needs a more specific type of digital print from their engineer stamp of approval, versus where we may not need that, but it's holding that process up with regards to getting that final manor alterations. The city has not indicated as of yet that they have the ability to join us, in a sense, having a staff person from the city be over here because of their computer systems. Last time we had a conversation with Chris was possibility of maybe having a staff person from manor alterations work over at the city hall. But unfortunately for us, we ran into the situation where we were down 2 or 3 positions in manor alterations, so we're just catching up with that. And then obviously we we went into the computer down network failure, which put us behind again.
Is the city, as we are now, are they issuing permits?
Yes, so we are in that process. It's just it's a very slow one right now because of obviously issuing the permits was in part based on old data that had already been submitted. And when I say old, just that had been submitted by people, and we lost that data for temporarily until we now have this network back up. So we are back in that process now.
I believe that the alterations department has been spending some overtime also trying to catch up. Is that correct?
With regards to the both operations, we have been looking at how we could augment our operations to just speed this thing up, including obviously the hiring of the staff that we're short on. With regards to the resales and leasing, a lot of that data, we have that fully operational now, so that's one of the reasons why that has a little shorter time frame in catching up.
Okay, any questions for Jeff? Okay.
Steve, can I ask a question?
Oh, sure. Kush, go ahead.
Jeff, any update on the COVID situation? Has the state issued any updates on the, those red, purple positions?
Yes, actually I have on 12B, I have a presentation for you today, a more detailed presentation on COVID. So item 12B on the agenda. So we'll talk about it there. And but yeah, there's a lot of additional detailed information right now. And then I'm going to turn it over to Siobhan, if that's good.
John Frankel has a question. Go ahead, John.
The traffic hearings were canceled. You think we can get back on again next month?
Yeah, I think with regards to now that we have the data back, John, and putting it back into our system, we're going to be able to get all our committee flowing again. Absolutely.
Thank you.
Debbie?
Yeah, I just wanted, since we're on Channel 6, everything is back up and running as far as cable and the networks and everything? Because that apparently was a big issue for a couple days.
With regards to our operations side of the, we are up. We are addressing some technical issues with regards to some of our cable, but as far as the cable television, actually wasn't affected directly by the malware, thankfully. So that data was not lost. What I was referring to is more impactful with regards to our day-to-day operations with regards to like manor alterations and such as the resident services and that side of the equation. So with regards to cable, back up, the one thing that we're addressing is an issue with regards to some of the commercials and how they're getting processed through that. And we're working with that today.
Okay, because yeah, there was a lot of, you couldn't get a lot of channels over the last few days.
There was an outage. I know that Chuck reported an outage to us yesterday, that there was a outage for a few hours over on Sunday, I believe it was. And that may have had an impact on that. So I'll check with Chuck on that and also with Eileen, because they both kind of work on the technical side, and then Eileen does it on the management side.
Any questions for Jeff? Okay, we'll go on to Siobhan.
Thank you, President Parsons. Honorable President, members of the board, I have a few updates for you this morning, please. First of all, bulky item pickup takes place on Saturday, November 21st. As you'll recall, free bulky item trash collection occurs on the third Saturday of each month. Place your bulky items near your trash enclosure or in the same location you place your trash bins. Items may be set out the night before or no later than 7 a.m. on collection day. Please remember to notify resident services prior to setting out your bulky items, and that number is 949-597-4600. I also want to share holiday hours with our residents. The Thanksgiving holiday is Thursday, November 26th, next Thursday. Closures will include bus services, the Resident Services Call Center, recreation coordinated fitness classes, and the outdoor gym, pools 1 and 2. Modified hours will be observed by pools 4 and 5 and the golf courses, and regular hours will be observed by racket sports, bocce, lawn bowling, and the garden centers. On Friday, November 27th, we will have regular hours for the Resident Services Call Center, golf courses, racket sports, bocce, lawn bowling, and the garden centers. The transportation service will not have bus service, but they are offering Planner Ride to all residents from 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. next Friday. And please call 949-597-4659 to make reservations. Recreation coordinated fitness classes and pools 1 and 2 will be closed next Friday. Modified hours will be observed by the outdoor gym and pools 4 and 5. Information is available on the village website in terms of those modified holiday hours. Our recreation department invites everyone to participate in the holiday golf cart parade, which will occur on December 5th at 2 p.m., beginning in the Clubhouse 1 parking lot. This is a chance for residents to bedeck their golf carts in holiday splendor and participate in a parade through the village to spread holiday cheer. Resident spectators are also encouraged to deck their homes, lawns, windows, and balconies in seasonal spirit. Spectators will be treated to a parade featuring servicemen and women, Santa, and additional entertainment. Golf cart parade participants may register now on ActiveNet or by calling Recreation at 949-597-4273. Also, I want to provide an update this morning on the 2020 census. The good news is that the city of Laguna Woods had a self-response rate of almost 82%. This compares to the 67% national self-response rate and the 69% state self-response rate. These figures include all responses online, by mail, and by telephone. They do not include responses provided to census workers in person, so these face-to-face contacts will increase the city's response rate to over 82%. So again, that's a fantastic turnout rate, participation rate, and we want to thank all of our residents for contributing to that. The Census Bureau is required by statute to provide apportionment counts to the president no later than December 31st, and they're working very diligently to meet this goal. Obviously, there have been some delays with the pandemic, but they are trying to meet this due date of December 31st. And the city advises us that they do not expect to receive local numbers until sometime in 2021. So that concludes my update this morning, and I appreciate your time.
Good. Jeff, if we could drop back for a second. Something that happened that I thought was pretty important was last week a meeting with the contractors. You want to kind of summarize what happened there? I thought that was a good forum.
Be glad to. So one of the things that we've been working on was to have a couple of separate meetings with real estate people and contractors with regards to the impact that they're seeing out there relative to a couple of things. One, our malware situation, but also with the COVID-19 situation and how we could work with both of those groups to have a better understanding not only of our procedures and practices, but have a better understanding of what some of their frustrations are and what can we look at to potentially modify in our operations and potentially modify in the sense of policies by yourselves as the directors of Third. So in that conversation with the contractors, I think a couple things that were noted to me as a follow-up is that communication to the contractors when policies change. If Third makes a policy or United makes a policy, making sure that all of our contractors out there understand what those policies are, how to navigate our website to make sure that they follow up on that is has been a concern and maybe something that just hasn't worked quite as well as it should have. Now, the interesting thing was that a number of the at the meeting, a number of the contractors who have been in the village for a long time and are some of our bigger and well-established contractors, they talked about that they go to our website and they follow what's going on with the mutuals, and so they have a better understanding. It's in all reality, it's the smaller, lesser equipped contractors, in the sense that are not doing as much all the time here in the village, but they come in and out, where they're not equipped evidently, and or aren't as interested in going and doing their due diligence with regards to saying Third has changed a policy or United has changed a policy. So even though we post that up on the website, now one of the things that we're going to talk about is how do we do a better job of getting communication out to contractors via direct email or letter or something that says, hey, this policy's changed, you need to be aware of that when you're looking at how you're setting up your contracts for the future and how you're dealing with your residents with regards to specific activities. I think that the other one that we talked about a lot, was how do we address the issue of a demolition permit versus a permit to move forward with the alterations. Right now, our policy is that you complete that demolition process before you come in with your permit. And I think there's a lot of dialogue and interest as could there be a way in which there could be simultaneous applications to expedite the process. So we're going to take a look at that. One of the challenges there that we face, and we're going to see if we can work on it, is a lot of the demo work that gets done ends up having more activity and more time frames because it is affected by asbestos. And there are asbestos rules and regulations that are promulgated down by the state of California on a yearly basis, if not more often. And those things are constantly changing. And making sure that our contractors understand what they have to do and what are their requirements and what we have to do here at the village with regards to our operations and how it affects our employees and making sure that they're safe and secure in an environment where asbestos is involved. And that's just getting more and more complicated out there. We constantly are in communication and trying to find out where AQMD and all of the state is going with regards to asbestos, because that seems to be one of the biggest areas when we're talking about demo work, that it is taking longer or it's taking more detailed work by our staff in order to facilitate and getting that demolition completed and then moving into the next phase, which is the true manner alterations and redo of the units. So those were the highlights, I think. I know that Robert Munch was there. I know, Steve, you were there. I don't know if you guys want to comment anymore. I very much appreciate all the board members that were able to sit in, because I think it's good to hear from these contractors. And it's, again, I think the important thing is this isn't the only meeting that we're going to have. We're going to continue to have these meetings and continue to have a dialogue with, and see if we can get other contractors involved too, because it's trying to provide a uniform voice out there to our contractors, not just the ones that know us the best, because that's seemingly that's part of some of the delays that we've seen in the past. So I'll turn it back over to you if you guys have any additional comments you want to make.
Well, I'll just comment that I think it was a very productive meeting. I think that the contractors were right on point with a number of issues that Robbie Doncost is going to take back and look at. And I think there was a firm agreement that there will be many more of these meetings as we move forward.
Okay, thank you. Any questions to Jeff on this topic? Okay, if not, we'll go ahead and move on to item 10. I'd like the board's permission to add something here to 10C. It just came up Friday, and it'll probably be kicking off soon, and this deals with committee appointments. They have put together, or are putting together, a two-person for BMS, United, GRF, and Third, little task force to study insurance. So we have been asked to participate. We said we would, and our two representatives are Robert and Reza. They've agreed to sit on this committee. So if it's okay with the board, we can include that into our committee appointments. And then we can go back and do the consent calendar as a whole. Is there any objection to this? Okay. Do I hear a motion that we accept the consent calendar? Okay, Annie and Donna seconds it. Okay, any discussion? Okay, if there are no objections, we'll consider this under common consensus. Okay, moving on to unfinished business, and I'll turn it over to Lynn. Please take it from here.
Thank you, President Parsons. This resolution was brought to the board last month, and it spells out the third mutual rules for board meetings and has satisfied its 28-day notification for member review and comment to comply with Civil Code 4360. A motion is needed for approval of this resolution. Do I hear a motion? Robert?
Debbie seconds.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you. We need a vote on that, Steve.
Is there any objection, or we'll consider this under common consensus? Okay, hearing none, we'll go ahead. Let's go into item 12A. Lynn, if you take us into that, please.
Okay. This recommendation was brought forth by Third Mutual's Architectural and Standards Committee. Staff was directed to review the existing alteration standard 12 regarding exterior wall attachments and to provide recommendations for addressing asbestos and dry rot. The revised standard 12 provides for a more defined scope of work and responsibility of members. Revisions include notification of asbestos testing and monitoring, weight limit specifications of attached objects, 25 pounds per framing stud, the use of silicone for waterproofing, and clarification regarding the member's obligation to remove the alteration for necessary maintenance. I'll make a motion to approve these revisions to Standard 12 exterior wall attachments. Andy, second.
Notification. Okay. Alrighty, we'll do that. Just as a side comment on this, people have been asking for clarification on what they could do on their interior walls, like in their patios and things like that. This is really to address and clarify this. We have actually moved forward on some things that we're allowing people to do, and doing it in a way that does not affect them in the sea or create dry rot or mold and mildew. So we hope this will help some people as we move forward. Okay, on to 12. Yes, go ahead.
We need to vote on this.
This is going on 28 days for review.
Oh, that's right. You're right. You're absolutely right. Thank you.
Okay. We'll go to 12B. And Jeff, you want to talk about this, please?
Yes. On item 12B, this is the review of the state and county and guidelines with regards to COVID-19. I have a PowerPoint presentation that I'm going to have up on the screen here in just a second. And there it is. So we're going to walk you through this PowerPoint presentation, and then I have a few other things to introduce to you with regards to some of these numbers. So next page, please. So what you have on the screen right now is the Orange County Health Department agency puts up on the daily basis the information with, that you're seeing here with regards to cumulative cases to date, COVID positive cases for that day, the previous day, the cumulative deaths to date in the county and deaths reported in that specific day. Now, with regards to deaths, sometimes there is a accumulation that occurs, but they try to keep it on a daily basis. Then also you have the cumulative tests to date and the tests reported during the day. So in comparison, 380 positive cases, those are the tests that were reported. And then cases currently in the hospitalization and then ICU. And the little asterisk on hospitalization is the ICU numbers are also in that 257 in this case, where you have 85 ICUs, that is included in that 257 number. Next slide. So the more detailed dashboard that the county put together started really about back in July when the numbers started to change, and they wanted to, the state kind of changed their format with regards to what category they were putting you in, why that was important. So what you see is the most current, obviously there'll be one produced today, but this is for yesterday, the new COVID-19 dashboard for Orange County. And I'm going to speak to this a little bit more detail, but as you can see at the very top, we are now in the purple widespread tier 1. The day before, when I made my presentation on TV6, we were in the red category, which is the substantial tier 2 category. And we have risen up and have been placed by the state back into the purple tier. The importance of that is that when you go into a more restrictive tier, such as the purple, certain things out there in the private sector are going to be limited or completely not available. For instance, in the purple tier, you cannot no longer have indoor dining. You cannot have indoor gymnasium activities. You can't have indoor classes with regards to dance classes and that type of activity. So as of tonight at midnight, all of Orange County is going to have to curtail those type of activities as of midnight tonight until we can go back into the red tier. Indoor shopping malls get reduced down to 25% where they were originally at 50%. So it is a very strong curtailment of indoor activities with regards to the private sector and where they're at. With the village itself, as you know, we have maintained that the seriousness of this, and we have not opened up our clubhouses because clubhouses were designated differently than just a shop or a gym. And we took the decision and made the decision to take our gym outdoors and make that available, as opposed to trying to open up our indoor gym, which had a lot of complications with regards to staffing and protocols. And in retrospect, I guess we're glad we did that, because we can continue to operate our gym activities outdoors. But if we were indoors, we would have to curtail that as of today. So a couple of the key categories up there, I wanted to just note. The first one there is the adjusted daily cases per 100,000. That is a 7-day average and with a 4-day lag. That is at 10.8%. And then we go across and we have positivity rate of 4.6%. And then the third category, which is that health equity quartile rate of 5.5. And what that is a trying to get a better understanding of where your most significant areas, census areas or zip code areas are with regards to that positivity rate. So as an average, we're at 4.6, that 7-day average, but there are areas that are showing a higher positivity rate, and those areas are required to lower that 5.5 down to below 5.2 In other words, they're trying to catch up with that positivity rate in order to go into a lower tier. And so that number has stayed up there, and that is based on the information that I've derived. Is there are a number of zip codes in the more heavily dense populated areas of Orange County that continue to see positivity rates that are in the 6% to 8% range, and they need to now, the state's basically saying, hey, county, you need to look at your whole county. You just can't look at certain areas that are doing really well and areas that are bad. You got to work together in order to get to a different a level with regards to whether you're in widespread, substantial, or moderate. One of the things that I wanted to mention with regards to those lines up there and those categories is went back and took a look at where we're going. And as you know, at a statewide level, we're seeing increases in COVID-19. Of course, at a national level, we're seeing numbers jump dramatically. And of course, the concern is we're heading right into the holiday seasons. We have Thanksgiving coming up. We have the holiday seasons in December where families want to get together. People are traveling. And that is a real concern with regards to the spread of COVID-19 because there are more interactions of people like that. And even if they're doing pretty good with their protocol, it just ups the average and potential of having COVID-19 continue to spread. With that note, I wanted to reference that I went back and looked at, and we've been keeping these charts in my office, but I went back to a month ago in October 22nd, just a little under a month ago. And if you look at those categories, our daily case rate's now at 10.8. On October 22nd, we were at 4.6 cases per 100,000. So we have more than doubled the amount of cases per 100,000 people in just the last month. In the positivity rate, we were at 3.2% positivity rate, which would have, if we would have been able to maintain that, we would have been headed into the moderate level. And so we were actually very optimistic at that point in time that we were moving towards the moderate level. However, what we've seen is this pretty substantial spike in numbers that have impacted us. Relative to Laguna Woods, and when I say Laguna Woods, I want to make sure everybody hears this. This is the city of Laguna Woods. Statistically, they don't just keep the village. So, you know, we're more than 90% of the community, though. So back in 1022, our cases in Laguna Woods were at 70, and we had 8 deaths. We're now up to 88, 89 cases as last reported. So, and we have 9 deaths now. So we, again, here, even in Laguna Woods, if you look at that as a percentage increase, is a pretty sharp increase in numbers. Small in numbers total, which I think is a credit to our residents and how well they have social distance and wear their mask and have done a really good job on that. So I did want to mention that. The other thing I wanted to mention, and it is, if you go on this website, you can kind of click down and it shows you a lot of different stats. One of the things that we've always talked about here is, you know, the village is made up of residents here that are by nature and by just statistics more at risk. We're a 55 and over community. Went back and looked at the new stats for, unfortunately, in the death rate in Orange County. 88% of the people who unfortunately have passed away because of COVID-19 in Orange County, 88% of those people are 55 and over. And what the stats are showing is that there is a increase in numbers by people in the younger categories, but they're either asymptomatic or they're getting very much benign or lower symptoms. But the problem is if they're in contact or become in contact with people in that senior category and they get sick, unfortunately, the death rate is so much more for those individuals that that's why it's so important relative to our village that we make sure that people have an understanding of the importance of social distancing and wearing masks and not having gatherings as a way as be preventative with regards to the activities that we do. Next slide, please. So the last numbers that I wanted to mention with regards to slides is the current hospital patients, 257, which was mentioned earlier, and the 85 AC in the intensive care numbers. That again is a pretty big jump. Going back just a couple of weeks ago, we were at less than 200 hospitalizations, and the ICU numbers were at 72. And that number, again, going back, if you go back even further, back to the time where I mentioned in 1022, the hospitalization rate was 168 and the ICU was 56. So we're seeing, again, that more critical. And where that relates to the critical nature for our community and for Orange County is over on the right-hand side, where you see that 31% and 65% with regards to currently available, the ICUs that are available, and also the ventilators. Those are pretty good numbers actually right now, but those numbers have dropped in the past. When we go back to July, when we had our biggest numbers of people in hospitals and ICUs, those numbers dropped. So again, that's probably one of the areas that we're going to want to make sure we take a look at and inform people, because we want to make sure that people understand the critical nature of this virus. With regards to, and that's it, we'll go to the next page, I guess. Just some background. Again, back in June of 2020, we had the temporary rules adopted on an emergency basis with regards to wearing the masks and how we were going to operate here in the village. In July, the modified temporary rules were adopted on, and some of those were just tweaked with regards to how we were going to enforce and how we were going to lay those out. And then in August 2020, the resolution pertaining to the adoption of the modified temporary COVID-19 rules were ratified. So we were working through June and July, which was really the spike in the numbers. If you go back, you saw hospitalizations in the 500 and ICUs well over 100. So we decided to not only continue to clamp down and make sure that we weren't opening up facilities, but we also wanted to get our residents to really understand the legitimacy of this virus and the concern of it. And so all of the boards got together and said, hey, let's put together some emergency rules and regulations with regards to enforce that. So those went into place, and they included wearing masks when you were outside and basically in any condition outside. It was a process in which we put together a warning system and then a fining system if people weren't wearing their mask, and then that would facilitate potentially a fine if it went that far, or at least at minimum a notification from our security that you need to be wearing a mask. In October 26th, that modified temporary rule expired. It was a 3-month rule. That's because it's an emergency in nature. The important thing to know about that going away is that we here at the village are still following state guidelines that are critical and moving forward. The only thing that is not in place right now is the enforcement side of the emergency basis that we talked about. The status of that is we are still, with regards to security, making sure people are notified that they should be wearing a mask out there. The difference between the state law as we now know it and our previous regulations was anytime you were outside, you should be wearing a mask. And now it is, it's anywhere outside if you can't socially distance appropriately. Next page. So as I indicated, the village is adhering to the state and county guidelines with regards to related to components of the emergency resolution. That is face coverings. So if you're outside and you can't socially distance, you need to be wearing a face covering. Outdoor gatherings and activities are limited specifically to small natures. And in your packet, today, in your agenda, is a really good detailed information from the CDPH with regards to not only how to wear a mask, which is real important because the other day I happened to be out and I noticed that somebody that was fairly close to me was wearing a mask, but they didn't have their nose covered. And that maybe is a common error, but it's real important to understand that people that if you're wearing a mask, that you have it with you all the time, and because you never know when you're going to run into people. You may be out for a walk and you think you're socially distanced and it's fine, but you may run into people. So have a mask with you and make sure that you're covering both your mouth and your nose is critical. And then relative to our operation here, following state guidelines, we don't have any indoor activities going on at this point in time. Next page. Again, kind of reiterating what I just said, but here's some of the guidelines with regards to covering having your face coverings in any indoor public space. It's required when waiting in lines at any activity, outdoor or indoor, when getting health care, going into health care, waiting for health care outside. Public transportation, that includes our operation here at the village with regards to transportation. If you're using it, then wear a mask. At work, when you're near others, our operation here is if you are here, then you're wearing a mask. If you have an office setting where you can isolate, then you can take your mask off. But if you're walking down the halls or if you're communicating with anybody, then we're requiring that you wear a mask. And then obviously the one change that we did was outdoors. If 6 foot distancing from others is not possible, you're required to wear a mask. That's consistent with where we were. But under our rules now, if you can social distance at least 6 foot, then you can take that mask off. We're recommending to anybody in the village, keep your mask on. It is the safest. Washing your hands, keeping masks off, and socially distancing is shown to be the best way to slow this COVID-19 expansion down. We were going in the right direction, and I heard a report this morning that indicated that one of the big reasons was that families and groups started to socially engage again without wearing masks, and that's been one of the big spikes that they've seen. Next page. With regards to outdoor gatherings and activities, again, the state guidelines, outdoor recreation, we're continuing to see how we can expand our outdoor activities, more classes. We're expanding our gym activity a little bit in the sense that we're going to be able to have a few additional people use it, which means our scheduling will work out better. So we continue to evaluate how we can bring in and do additional outdoor recreational so our community has the ability to go out and still recreate. Obviously our golf course, pickleball, tennis, and all those are working. As I mentioned, the fitness center is just the expansion of that, but and I'm really pleased that we did it that way because like I said, if we were indoor, we wouldn't be able to offer that any longer as of today. Drive-in movies and entertainment, given the guidelines from the state, we've been able to do that and they've been very successful. I do want to comment on that on one note to our community, and this is a request. These are real great activities that our recreation department has put on, but it is real important still to wear your mask when you're at these activities. We did have a concert and I was notified that we had a few people that were not adhering to the mask with regards to social distancing and wearing masks. If that continues, I would respectfully say that we're going to be in a position where we're not going to be able to offer these type of activities if people aren't going to follow the state rules. Next, outdoor gatherings and activities. Just following up on that, only counties that are in the moderate and minimal risk are permitted to hold outdoor gatherings. These are where people are just congregating together, or if you had an outdoor concert where people weren't in cars like we did with our drive-in situation. This obviously, as you can guess, this is the moderate and minimal, was where we were maybe headed, but we were still in the red tier, so we couldn't do it. Now that we're in the purple, I can tell you that there's no way that you're going to see these type of gatherings that in the village or out there in Orange County for a while until we get these numbers down. And they would be just to let, again, to the residents out there, if groups are gathering beyond what's allowed under state law, then again, they're violating state law and the county health orders. And underneath there is the audience members, other non-performers must wear masks. Again, the household requirements. Performers not wearing face coverings must be at least 6 feet apart and do not attend gatherings if sick, obviously, or high-risk groups. Frequently washing your hands and using hand sanitizers is critical. But that one below that, again, we're a high-risk group here in the village. So there is a lot of recommendations, not mandates, but recommendations that people that are in the high-risk category be very careful and very cautious with regards to engaging in any activity, whether it's outdoor, and especially if you're doing indoor activities allowed by the state law, such as going to restaurants that now, unfortunately, because we're going into the purple tier, won't be allowed indoors, but when they were allowed under the red or anything better than that, limited space and indoor activities are very, very, you need to be cautious because this is where the spread seems to be the most egregious in the COVID-19 area. Outdoor activities will continue to do that because at least we can modify the spacing and we can address the fact that we have good outdoor weather here in Southern California. The challenge is going to be further into the winter when we get into the rainy season where we won't be able to have some of these outdoor activities. So that will be our struggle at that point in time. But I will keep you updated on a monthly basis, and I appreciate the opportunity to give you a little bit more detail as we are. And I'll be glad to answer any questions of the board if they'd like.
Does anybody have any questions for Jeff on this?
Yeah, this is Reza. I have a couple of questions. If,
go ahead.
Debbie raising her hand. Let Debbie start.
Well, go ahead, Reza. Maybe you're going to say what I'm going to say.
Well, I have two questions. Number one is, do we have any guideline or advisory the statement for Thanksgiving and the Christmas family gathering within the village? Is there any of that available, or there is none? That's the question.
I think that the answer is we don't have a set policy, but the recommendation by the not only the CDC but the state of California on Friday of last week, the state issued a travel warning and a recommendation that if you are traveling or you have people that are traveling here from out of state and you go out of state and come back, that you should self-quarantine for 14 days from the time of that occurrence. And that is a recommendation by the state health department as of Friday. It is not, by the way, I don't want to say it is mandatory, it's a should statement. But again, they're trying to limit the spread. They're basically saying, keep your gatherings, your family gatherings to 1 or 2 families. Not having big congregations, obviously, is one of the, you're just odds and chances of it spreading is greater than if you keep your numbers lower.
Okay, my second question is about the vaccine. We know that the vaccine on the horizon, and our community is designated as at-risk community. Are we engaged with the Department of Health within the state of California to discuss the priority for residents when the vaccine is available, which is going to be pretty soon? Are we doing anything on that regard? Thank you.
It's a very good question, Reza. We have kind of have our talking points ready to communicate with both our congresswoman and our state representatives with regards to that issue, because I think as that political pressure of how this is going to get disseminated gets out there, we need to let our elected leaders know that we are just that, we're that critical group here, and that if there is a priority setting, that we be acknowledged and recognized that we're in that high priority category, and see if that could facilitate getting implementation here at the village faster.
Thank you.
Debbie?
Yes. So to Reza's point about the vaccine, that was one of the things that I've brought up to Annie earlier too. I think it would behoove us as a group to have some representation from the boards to be on some type of committee or task force about getting this into the village, because we are one of the largest senior communities in the state, and the governor does have a task force to determine who's in line first. I realize the logistics and all those things are very detailed, but if we start now and are ready to go, we are probably going to be in a better position to get this done. That's my first point. My second point is that one of the things that I see, and maybe this can happen, or maybe it may not need to happen, is, in the next 2 weeks after Thanksgiving, it's going to be very apparent if the numbers go up that social distancing was not followed, and would we be in a position at that point to put back in some type of emergency resolution? Because everybody is suffering tremendously from COVID fatigue. And it is very common now to see people maskless. The CDC guidelines is, even though the social distancing is 6 feet, they do say that high-risk people should not only social distance, but continue to wear masks. I'm seeing groups all the time with no mask and much closer than 6 feet in the community. And I know it's very hard to put this into enforcement, but I do feel like we need to be cognizant of this. We've worked so hard for so many months. It would be a shame to have our guard down now, and especially when the numbers are going up so dramatically all over the country. So I would hope that we keep our eye on this and be ready to take some immediate action if we see a real big uptick. Because we've already seen an uptick since the emergency resolution went away. You said that was October 26th. You gave us numbers from October 22nd till now, and those are significantly higher. So there obviously could be some correlation there. So those are just statements that I have, and I'm more than willing to do my part and help in any way that I can to see that we get if we are able to get on the list to get the vaccine sooner, that would be awesome. And that's it.
Can I make a comment on what Debbie said?
Reza?
Okay, I was going to ask, but I thought that might not be very relevant. I don't think we have statistics for the village itself to make some determination of the cases up and down. We go with the city of Laguna Woods, which is kind of different population, although we are 85% of that community, but I don't know if the majority within the other 15% or within the village. If we had our internal statistics for the village, we could make some decision of should we have more, restriction or do more in order to prevent it. But unfortunately, we have to go with the city of Laguna Woods, which we don't know what the spreads are. The spread might not be within the village, might be within the outside community. But is there any way that we can keep our own statistics, or do we have one?
I don't think we, relative to the specifics, we don't have a specific information that you're referencing to. Again, we use what the county provides us, which is coming off the city information that they relate back to cities within the county.
Craig?
Both Walgreens and CVS have announced that they are going to be carrying the vaccine. Should we be contacting our local Walgreens, our local CVS to see what they're going to tell us?
Well, not only that, but Craig, I think we need to be working with like Saddleback Hospital specifically, and they've been a really good partner with regards to that. And then, of course, if the operation that the county ultimately goes to is similar to like the testing process where they actually have a place where you can get the vaccine. I will make a note relative to the vaccine, and you probably have heard this, the vaccine that Pfizer has versus the other one that we got good news about yesterday is that the vaccine that Pfizer has is one that has to be kept at a very, very low temperature. And so they were talking the distribution of that might not be able to be handled at a Walgreens because they wouldn't have the facilities to handle the cold, or it'd be more at a hospital environment where hospitals and labs would have more capacity. So I think it's going to be multiple. I don't think it's going to be one or the other ultimately.
This is Reza. I can make a comment on that. There are two vaccines, Pfizer. The efficacy of Moderna is much higher. The Pfizer one, you have to keep at minus 70 degrees versus minus 20. And the one with the Moderna, also you can keep the refrigeration temperature at about 1 month. The efficacy is the most important part, and I don't know which one is going to be distributed in which community and which one is going to be available, and the priority. That's what I asked the question at the beginning. How are we going to get the priority? Cannot just go to the CVS and say, I want the vaccine, you get the vaccine. It's not going to work that way. There are going to be a set priorities, and we need to figure those out, what the distribution is, and who gets the priority.
Anna?
Yeah, I'd just like to urge us to continue, as Jeff Barker said, to work with the state or with our local officials, because it's a nice idea to work with Walgreens, but they're not going to get the vaccine early. That's going to be a much slower priority, I'm sure. They might prioritize us, but they've got to have it first. So the priority will have to come from either the county health department or the state. So urging us to keep working at that level. Thanks.
Just as a point of clarification, I know some people have wondered about this. What about the wearing of masks by USPS package delivery people or Amazon or the such? Are they being instructed to wear their masks? I haven't seen them wearing them myself. And the actual post office delivery people. Any comments on that, Jeff or Siobhan?
With regards to the requirement, and we're still working with that with regards to our gates, is that if you're coming in as a delivery person, the requirement is to have masks. Now, once they get into the village and driving around, if they're taking their mask off, I certainly don't have the manpower to chase them down and follow them. But with regards to ensuring that they have masks when they come to the gate, we do have that.
Any other questions for Jeff on this topic?
President Parsons, we do have a member comment on 12B.
Steve, this is Kush. I have a comment.
Okay, Kush, go ahead, then we'll go to member comments.
Yes. Jeff, this was a very good presentation. Is there going to be a link on our website for the people to have advantage of this? Because if somebody missed it and they were told, go to the website, you can see the presentation. Can we create one?
Yes, we can work on putting that together. Sure.
Awesome. Thank you.
Hey, Grant, who do we have as member comments?
President Parsons, members of the board, we have a member comment from Karen Shore at 40123G. She states, regarding the review of state, county, and other applicable COVID-19 requirements, an update of the facility use in the village is understandable, but signage should be kept to a minimum. Rules arbitrarily imposed on behavior by residents is unnecessary and unwarranted, and no more threats of fines for behaviors by residents. I would recommend the appropriate use of knowledgeable ad hoc committees to assist board members' decisions that they address public health concerns in the future instead of relying on the limitations and emotions of the board alone. That is all.
Jeff, do you have any comments on that? I'm unaware of the signage that goes on.
No, only when we originally put the emergency resolution in place, we did have some signage at the gates to make sure people knew that the requirement of the masks.
Okay. Any other comments? Okay. Thank you very much.
A comment on that. I don't think the board is using their just limited knowledge to make decision on this thing. We go what the state, county, and the CDC rules and requirements are. It's not the board decision prior. This is what the county and CDC tell us that we need to do in order to protect ourselves. So this is not just board knowledge.
Thank you. Okay, let's move on to item 13, to committee reports. Then we'll do the finance committee and financial report. Director Mucci.
Thank you, President Parsons. For those of you who attended the annual meeting a couple of weeks ago, some of this information will look familiar to you because there hasn't been any real update since then. But for those of you who did not join us then, let me go ahead and share with you information as of the end of September 30th. We have the slide, please. Next slide. All righty. This slide provides you with an overview of how income increased month over month for the 3 months ending September 30th. From August 31st to September 30th, the mutual saw an additional assessment revenue in the amount of $2,764,000, so that at the end of August, Third Mutual had an assessment revenue of just almost $25 million. The increase in assessment revenue from August to the end of September is consistent with the increase for each of the previous 3 months. In terms of non-assessment revenue, there was an additional $117,000 brought in since the end of August. This created a total revenue of almost $27 million by the end of September, meaning an additional revenue of $2,881,000 since the end of August. There was an increase in the non-assessment revenue, $32,000, creating a positive increase in total revenue for the month of September. Expenses increased during this time period by an additional almost $3 million, leaving Third Mutual with a net revenue of $4 million, which is an increase of approximately $42,000 in net revenue for the past 30 days. As we reported last month, we expected net revenue increases to slow down since we brought back all of our employees and have started all of our temporary projects again. Next slide, please. This slide presents data for the operating fund only for the months of July, August, and September. Assessment revenue increased over the most recent 30-day period by $1,685,000, the same amount as the previous month. Basically, every month we increase by about $1,685,000, which is the HOA fees that we get. Non-assessment revenue increased by $120,000, for a total revenue increase for the last 30 days of $1,602,000. During the same period, third total expenses increased by $1,823,000. This reduced the operating surplus $18,000 to a final sum for this period, if you look on the far right of the chart, of $512,000. This is both consistent and expected as we reported to you last month. Slide 4, please. This slide compares our revenues and expenses to what was actually budgeted. As can be seen from the slide, actual and budget assessment revenue was, as one would expect, the same. In terms of non-assessment revenue, Third Mutual non-assessment revenue for the month of September was greater than the anticipated budget by $366,000. Expenses for the month of September were less than budgeted, leaving a variance of actual revenue minus expenses versus what was budgeted of a plus $6,149,000. That's on the far right side of this chart. Again, don't think of this positive variance as one that the mutual can maintain. Now that we're back again, as we've said numerous times, in full force, this number we expect to decline for the rest of the year. Next slide, please. This slide provides you with a picture of select budget items and the current variance associated with each for the end of September. You also have the opportunity to see how each of these variances compares to the variance for each category at the end of both July and August. The green bar represents the variance at the end of July, while the gold bar represents the dollar amount for the variance for each category at the end of August, and the top bar, the kind of brownish gold, represents the reporting period for September. As you can see, looking only at the top bars in each of these categories, Third has a favorable variance for each of the categories from outside service, employee compensation, unrealized gains on AFS, materials and supplies, and utilities and telephone, all for the period ending September 30th. The last two categories have an unfavorable variance. In the case of insurance, the unfavorable variance is a result of the higher than expected premiums to the tune at this point of $410,000. This will also continue to increase for the end of the year. The second unfavorable variance is $147,000 for fees and charges. The good news in this category is that previous month you can see it was $157,000, and for July it was $164,000. So slowly we are chipping away at this unfavorable variance of fees and charges. And as we hold more hearings, this category should decrease. Next slide, please. This slide depicts two pie charts. The one on the left for August 31st, while the one on the right is for total non-assessment revenue for the period ending the 30th of September. Third had additional total non-assessment income of $116,888 month over month. Most of the different categories in the two pie charts stayed fairly similar in terms of the percent of revenue they generated, with the exception of the unrealized gains on AFS, which dropped 4% month over month. Next slide. Again, this slide depicts two pie charts for comparison purposes. Month over month, Third had additional expenses of $2,838,000. The percentage of expenses for these categories, as you can see, outside services was 23%. In August, September, it was also 23%. Utilities, telephone, 18. As you can see, as you go down the list, that they pretty much stayed the same in terms of the percentage that they represent of total expenses month over month. Next slide. This slide, I think, is a relatively important slide and one that we need to understand. Third Mutual, if you look down in the bottom right-hand corner, Third Mutual had almost $32,401,000 for reserves and contingencies. This represents an increase in this category of approximately $71,000 for the past month. Now, if you look across at the bottom of the chart, This includes $74,000 in the Garden Villa Fund, just over $4 million in the Unappropriated Expenditures Fund, and $9 million in the Disaster Fund, and $19 million in the Replacement Fund. Okay, year to date, Third had $10.7 million in contributions. That's if you look at the line that says contributions and interest, go over to the far right and you'll see it says $10,681. Okay, so we had almost $10.7 million in contributions and interest added to these funds, while we had $7 million in expenditures for a net increase year to date of just over $3.6 million. Next slide, please. This slide compares the different fund balances for the past 5 years, which have averaged $28.6 million. Please note that Third has been committed to supporting the goals of the reserve requirements, while at the same time trying to balance the need for unexpected events. And the last slide. This slide provides you with a picture of the resale situation for Third for the past 5 years. Year to date, we are down 60 resales for the same time last year and 64 from the time the year before. The average resale price for this year, if you look up in the top right-hand corner, including September, is $426,626, up an average of $15,445 over the average of the resale price for last year. And that concludes the Treasurer's report. The next meeting of the Finance Committee is December 1st at 1:30. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Robert. Any questions for Robert? Okay, if not, we'll go on to 13B, report of Architecture Controls and Standards Committee. As you know, we were hit by malware, and the system is still not totally totally running. We have, because of the situation, we have chosen to cancel the meeting on November 23rd, and instead we are moving ahead with December 28th at 9:30 a.m. So that would be our next meeting. Okay, on to report of Communications Committee. Welcome to Derek.
Thank you, President Parsons. The Third Communications Committee did not meet at all this year. However, we are planning to have our first meeting the early part of 2021, and that meeting is to be announced. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. On to report of maintenance construction. Rick Knudsen.
Okay, thank you again, President Parsons. The M&C Committee did not meet this past month. Again, as President Parsons has indicated, malware prevented us from being able to have access to materials that we needed. However, I do have for you some information I would like to share related to different projects as it's involved in the project log for the month of November. I want to highlight certain ones. I want to explain to you what the project is and which buildings are being addressed by those projects. And next month, I'll do the same thing with a number of other projects, try to keep you informed. For example, building structures. This is an ongoing project to repair or replace building structural components that are not performing as designed. 411B, construction is in progress and scheduled to be completed in December. 410H, structural repair plans are expected next month. And 3299B, we're expecting a structural evaluation report for the column and footing. Another program we have is the dry rot program. This program is designed to implement a systematic approach to eradicating wood rot throughout Third Mutual. Scheduling is in progress for repairs at the following buildings: 2401, 2402, 2404, 2405, 2355, 2397, and 2393. For building 2400, construction is in progress and is scheduled to be completed by the end of November. We have already completed, in terms of the dry rot program, buildings 2386, 2387, 88, 2353, 2354, and 2399. Another program we have is the foundation program. This program is designed to replace foundations that are showing signs of distress or impending failure. 3358P, the garage wall footing construction bids are due this month. For 2387B and 2397B, the concrete spalling, structural repair documents are pending. Concrete spalling is when pieces of the concrete are chipping away or falling away. Electrical systems, funds allocated to repair or replace electric equipment failures as needed. Grounding in the Garden Villa electrical panels are not up to code, and we need to improve them for safety reasons. Staff has currently completed this year grounding improvements to 52 of the Garden Villas. Garden Villa lobby renovations. 9 Garden Villa lobbies were scheduled for renovation in 2020. They should be completed by the end of the month. Asphalt paving, I've got 1 or 2 more. Asphalt paving program dedicated to preserving the integrity of cul-de-sac street paving. Cul-de-sacs 216 and 306 and streets Rayo del Sol and Vista del Mondo were completed in September. And last, but also probably one of the most important, is the epoxy line remediation. This program's objective is to install seamless liners within the existing waste pipes to mitigate future root intrusion, as well as to resolve and prevent future backup problems related to compromised pipes. The program addresses interior as well as exterior waste lines. The primary focus now is on the 3-story buildings. Other buildings with a high risk for stoppage will also be evaluated. It takes approximately 8 weeks to complete the waistline remediation in a Garden Villa building. There are 1,405 buildings in Third Mutual, so we have a lot of work ahead of us to complete. We're currently finishing up building 2391, and the next building that'll be done this year will be building 3244, which is scheduled to start at the end of the month. And that's just an update on some of the kinds of projects that we're engaged in here in Third Mutual on behalf of you, the members. Thank you.
Thank you, Robert. Any questions for M&C? Okay, on to report parking and task golf cart task force in parking. We have not had any meetings this year. We've had to use the money that was targeted in for that for insurance purposes, and we'll be gearing back up at least to do plans for different areas throughout Third, starting in January. So our next meeting is January 6th, the time to be announced still. Thank you. We'll go on to Garden Villa Rec Room Subcommittee, Director Jarrett.
Yes, the work on the rec room committee, the work on the rec rooms has been completed for 2020, and the maintenance supervisor is out inspecting all the rec rooms. So by mid-February, we'll have all the plans made for 2021, and he'll even have a budget ready for 2022 at that particular time, because we only meet 3 times a year. So February coming up, and we'll name the date.
Thank you. And if you would, go ahead and cover Landscape Committee.
Okay, the landscape, the next meeting will be December the 3rd, Thursday morning at 9:30 a.m. We're looking forward to having this meeting because we had to cancel the last 2 meetings. We're looking forward also to hearing from some of the residents about their complaints. So we need to have some resident comments, member comments. So that'll be, like I say, December the 3rd, 9:30 a.m. It'll be a virtual meeting.
Hey, Water Subcommittee.
I don't have anything to report at this time. Our next meeting with the new committee member will be in January, will be announced later. Thank you.
Resident Policy and Compliance Committee, Director Jarrett. You're muted. There you go.
We had to postpone postpone our October 27th meeting, and we'll be meeting again in mid-December, and the date is to be announced. Thank you.
Okay. On to GRF highlights. Community Activities Committee, Director Bada.
Thank you, President Parsons. Unfortunately, we did not have a meeting of Community Activities Committee this month, so we have nothing to report. Our next meeting will be December the 10th at 1:30 p.m. and it will be a virtual meeting. Would you like me to continue with the Equestrian Center thing?
Yes, please.
Okay, the same thing for the Equestrian Center. There was no meeting held this month. It was cancelled because of the malware attack. The next meeting is to be announced. We don't have a date for it right now, unfortunately. So, thank you.
On to GRF Finance Committee, Director Muchnick.
The GRF Finance Committee met, but there's nothing really to report at this time. Thank you.
Okay. GRF Landscape Committee, Director Jarrett.
Yes, we haven't met since August, but we have a meeting scheduled for November the 30th. It'll be a virtual meeting at 1:30 p.m. Thank you.
GRF Maintenance Construction Committee, Director Bada.
Thank you, Director President Parsons. We did meet several times for the GRF MNC committee. It was mainly geared towards the Performing Arts Center. I'm happy to report that we did pass several contract requests. Mainly the first one we did was for the HVAC repair updates. The second one was the lighting conversion to LED lights. The third was lobby and dining room upgrades. Apart from that, we are also talking about the driving range and the staff parking lot, which is in the service area. The staff parking lot lighting, that's what we are trying to do, to create some kind of solar light pilot over there. So that's what we are working on. Our next meeting is going to be February 10th at 10 a.m. Not sure yet, but it could be a virtual meeting is what I'm guessing. All right. Thank you, sir.
On to Clubhouse 1 Renovation Ad Hoc Committee, Director Muchin.
Director Frankel has taken over that at this point, so I think Director Frankel could be the one to give that report.
Oh, I haven't got a report to do.
Stand by for news. Okay, Media and Communications Committee, Director McCleary.
President Parsons, the Media and Communications Committee did meet in October, and I did report at our last meeting feedback from that meeting. The next committee meeting is scheduled for December 14th at 1:30 p.m., and that will be a virtual meeting. Thank you.
Okay. Mobility and Vehicles Committee, Director Franklin.
I reported on the Mobility and Vehicles Committee for the last month, so there's no report. The next meeting will be December 2nd.
Okay. Yeah, 1:30. Okay. Okay, on to Security and Community Access Committee, Director Bada.
Security and Community Access has not met in the last month or two, and I have nothing to report at this time. So the last meeting also was cancelled. The next meeting is on December 28th, 2020. Most likely at 1:30 p.m. Most likely will be a virtual meeting.
Okay, thank you. Disaster Preparedness Task Force, Director McCary.
Thank you, President Parsons. The task force did meet in September, and I did give a report at our last board meeting. So the next disaster task force meeting is scheduled for November 24th at 9:30 a.m., and that is to be a virtual meeting.
Okay. Report Laguna Woods Village traffic hearings. Director Frankel.
As a consequence of the network failure, there will be no meeting tomorrow for the traffic hearings, and we'll see what happens. But Jeff is positive that we're going to be able to get that thing going. As for last month, we had 13 violations, 12 residents and 13 violations. 2 decals, 2 stop signs, 4 speeding, 2 parking, and 4 two charging, unauthorized charging, and 1 abandoned vehicle. And that completes my report.
Thank you very much. Anything we've missed on this, community reports? Director Muchnick.
Yes, President Parsons, the Strategic Planning Committee for GRF did have a virtual meeting a couple of weeks ago. It was a preliminary first meeting of the Strategic Planning Committee, so not a lot was discussed except some brainstorming ideas of how to proceed. And John Pearlstone is chairing that committee, and we expect to have additional meetings over the next few months.
Any other things or items we might have missed? Okay, on to item 15, future agenda items. There'll be several things coming out next year on parking report. We also want to get our resident suggestion program going. We will keep alterations review because we need to stay on top of what's happening there. Property and casualty insurance is going to be ongoing most of next year, I think. Are there any other topics we need to add? Future agenda. Okay, hearing none, we'll go around for director comments. And Kush, you want to start us off?
Sure, but I don't have any further comments. Thank you, sir.
Greg?
I have no comments either. Thank you.
Okay, Lynn?
I have no comments either. Thank you.
Okay, John Frankel?
No comments, thank you.
Any last minute comments?
Who did you call?
You.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't hear you. I just, my comments are, I hope everyone have a safe and happy Thanksgiving, and hope everyone continues to be safe and be well. Thank you.
Debbie?
No comments other than what I've already made. Thanks. Have a good holiday, everyone. Stay safe.
I echo Annie's comments. Thank you.
Donna?
No extra comments, just everybody stay safe.
Okay, Ralph?
No comment, thank you.
Reza?
I forwarded an email I received during the meeting to President Parson and several others for comment you can make to the members. And I wish everyone happy holidays and get together after holidays, I guess. Thank you.
Wei Ming? Any comments?
No comment, thank you.
Okay, Rosemarie?
We sent you a copy of the CEO evaluation, and it's due by the 30th, Steve. So it's just a reminder.
Okay.
And we have other stuff that we'll go over at closed session.
Okay. Good, thank you. Raquel?
Echo Annie's comments and thank Jeff for his detailed report today.
Jeff, any last minute comments?
No, I didn't have anything. Thanks, Steve.
Okay, Siobhan?
No, thank you, Steve.
Okay, appreciate everybody being here today. And let me echo again, for everybody to have a happy Thanksgiving. Please remember the new rules now that we're back in purple. So you may want to check on those weekly to find out what they might be. And thank you so much for being patient. We know this has been a long, drawn-out period. Never would have thought that it would have gone this long. Looks like it's going to go a little while longer. So stay patient, stay safe, and stay communicative. And check on your neighbors when you can, and let everybody know that we're really and truly there for them. Okay, with that being said, we'll go into recess for 15 minutes here. Start back at 11:30, and Director McCura will be leading us in that session. Well, thank you, everyone, and stay on this link, and we'll continue at 11:30. Thank you so much.